Government orders a 14-day closure of more entertainment venues, including karaoke lounges and nightclubs. A 40-day-old infant becomes Hong Kong's youngest COVID-19 patient to date. And Donald Trump urges Americans to follow strict social distancing measures ahead of a tough 2 weeks. Good evening and welcome. The government today announced a 14-day closure of more types of entertainment venues, including karaoke lounges and mahjong parlors, as part of measures to stem the spread of the coronavirus. But there was confusion over the implementation of the policy. Pinky Wong reports.
More entertainment venues have been added to the list under the new regulation to enhance social distancing amid the coronavirus outbreak. Karaoke lounges, massage places, nightclubs, beauty parlors, mahjong parlors, and clubhouses were ordered to shut down for 14 days. The decision came after a special meeting of the Executive Council this morning. The new regulation was gazetted in the afternoon without prior notice. It stated that the new measure came into effect at 3 p.m. today. Some workers at a beauty parlor found that unreasonable.
I just know now, right? Just 4 o'clock. So I'm just shocked because I have a client coming 5 o'clock. So I really want to take care of my client, and they book the time, and then, it's not suddenly you ask me to shut down and go home. I can't agree with that. No, it's not okay. It's not okay for me or for anyone. Totally shut down is loss of business. Company is not getting anything. We are also not getting anything. Many of my friends told me some spa, they close for no pay leave. So nobody is happy with that.
Officials later made a clarification asking only karaoke lounges, nightclubs, and mahjong parlors to close for 14 days. An affected business owner is also not pleased with such a sudden announcement.
It's going to be a big impact, on this industry. All mahjong parlor will be shut down for 14 days. We have no income. So in the case, the staff will have no income also, But the daily expenses like rent, like electricity, and many other miscellaneous expenses we still have to pay. We hope the government, will subsidize, the staff, and also, the owner of the industry.
Beauty parlors, massage places, and clubhouses are allowed to stay open, but they are required to step up preventive measures such as requiring all people there to wear face masks and have their temperatures checked. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
The city recorded 51 more COVID-19 infections today, bringing the total of the cases to 765. Among the new patients, a 40-day-old infant. Sharon Tang reports.
More than 30 new infections are imported cases. The group includes dozens of students returning from overseas, a pregnant woman, a flight attendant, and a pilot. Among the 17 local infections, 2 more people who went to karaoke hall Red Mister in Tsim Sha Tsui. That means all 7 at the gathering are now COVID-19 patients. 1 more performer and a customer linked to the Lan Kwai Fong band cluster are confirmed with the virus as well. Most alarmingly, a baby boy who's only 40 days old has tested positive for the virus. He was admitted to the pediatric isolation facility at Queen Elizabeth Hospital.
Since the baby has fever, a lot of investigation was done, including the chest X-ray, which was normal, and also some blood tests, which was normal. Now the baby's conditions was stable, and we are still observing the response of the baby because the baby was just admitted for 1 day.
Meanwhile, the parents of the infant tested negative for the virus. Authorities say the baby was likely infected by a family friend who was later confirmed with the virus. The boy is believed to be the youngest patient to have come down with the virus. According to the hospital authority, there are guidelines from experts on the usage of drugs on babies.
Experts think that the protein enzyme inhibitor can be prescribed, but this is a new coronavirus. There may be side effects such as nausea, vomiting, and may also affect the liver function. So we have to be very careful.
Among the other cases, a beauty salon worker who came into contact with a confirmed patient. Also, an immigration department staff believed to have been infected by a friend who displayed respiratory symptoms after returning from the U.S. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
A government-chartered flight will depart from Lima on Friday to bring back Hong Kongers stranded in Peru. A chartered flight is set to land in London, where the Hong Kongers will take another flight back to their territory. The users will have to pay for the service, and lawmaker Jeremy Tam said the flight from Lima to London will cost each passenger $30,000. For those stranded in other parts of Peru, another flight from Cusco to Lima will cost an extra $6,000 per passenger. Only those who have received a permit issued by the Chinese embassy will be allowed to go to Lima to take the chartered flight, as Peru is now under a state of emergency. Elsewhere, U.S. President Donald Trump is warning Americans of a painful 2 weeks ahead in fighting the coronavirus, with the total of confirmed cases there at 184,000. COVID-19 has so far claimed at least 3,700 lives in the U.S., a fatality number higher than that during the September 11th, 2001 terror attacks. Reality has set in at the White House. In perhaps his most somber news conference to date about the pandemic, the president urged Americans to follow federal guidelines limiting group sizes, working from home, and to avoid dining out.
I want every American to be prepared for the hard days that lie ahead. This is going to be a very painful, very painful 2 weeks.
Trump, who has faced criticism for playing down the threat of the outbreak in its initial phases, now says it's absolutely critical for Americans to follow the guidelines for the next 30 days. Modeling shows the number of deaths across the nation will escalate and peak roughly around mid-April. Experts are predicting an enormous jump in deaths to a range of 100,000 to 240,000 people in the coming months.
The fatalities to this disease will increase, and then it will come back down, and it will come back down slower than the rate at which it went up.
This is the thing that we need to anticipate, but that doesn't mean that that's what we're going to accept. We want to do much better than that.
The latest projections have prompted Trump to ditch a plan he articulated last week to get the U.S. economy moving again by Easter. Elsewhere, preparations continue to expand the number of hospital beds available in cities across the country.
Come tell us why you choose to put these people's lives.
But in some parts of the country, the message isn't getting through. In Louisiana, worshipers continue to flock to church services, ignoring precautions. The church pastor is facing misdemeanor charges for holding the services despite a ban on gatherings.
We have a mandate from God to praise God in His sanctuary. This is the sanctuary.
Pastor Spell says he doesn't consider the church doors open any different than keeping the doors of Walmart open. There are concerns tonight that Russian President Vladimir Putin may have contracted the coronavirus. Putin visited a hospital in Moscow a week ago and shook hands with the hospital's head doctor, Denis Protsenko. Protsenko has since tested positive for COVID-19 and is self-isolated. There was no immediate comment from the Kremlin on whether Putin had undergone a coronavirus test. Russia registered 500 new cases yesterday, bringing the country's confirmed infections to 2,337. The Italian government announced that lockdown conditions will be in place until at least the Easter holidays in mid-April. But medical officials are warning even that may be too soon, saying a deceleration in new cases, in new cases, should not raise hopes. The coronavirus crisis is nearing an end. Alan Buknia reports.
The lockdown has been in place since March 9th, and it appears to be having an effect. After weeks of steep rises, data this week suggests the pace is slowing. There were 4,053 new infections yesterday, 1,200 less than a week ago. Deaths have remained largely steady at about 800 per day. politicians fear it will be hard to keep people penned up much longer as the medical bulletins improve. In the UK, where they're expecting a surge in COVID-19 cases, efforts are underway to be as prepared as possible, given the shortage of medical equipment necessary. Construction is well underway for a new 4,000-bed hospital in London. UK Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove said things have to go further and faster.
There are some signs, as a result of people observing social distancing, that we may be able to flatten the spread of infection, but now is absolutely not the time for people to imagine that there can be any relaxation or slackening.
Meanwhile, more French COVID-19 patients arrived in Germany. The country has taken in more than a dozen patients from France and Italy, where the healthcare systems have been overwhelmed. Germany has about 62,000 confirmed cases, but only 583 deaths. It's using this time to strengthen its own intensive care capacity. Alan Bucknia, TVB News.
Officials on the mainland say they recorded 36 new confirmed COVID-19 cases yesterday. Almost all of them are imported cases. Starting today, the National Health Commission will report the data of asymptomatic patients, meaning those who tested positive for the virus but have not developed a fever or coughing. Today, 130 new cases of asymptomatic infection were reported. A total of 1,367 asymptomatic patients are still under medical observation. Health authorities say these patients and their close contacts must be closely monitored and quarantined in order to curb transmission of the virus. Japan remains on the brink of a state of emergency as the rate of coronavirus infections continues to increase in the country. Tokyo recorded more than 70 new coronavirus infections yesterday, its highest tally in a single day. Meanwhile, Vietnam entered a 2-week lockdown today in order to enforce social distancing and slow the outbreak. A government order bans public gatherings of more than 2 people, and people have been asked to stay at home except for absolute necessities. In India, a video has emerged showing men in protective suits spraying what a local Indian administrator called disinfecting sanitizer on people. An administrator said police ordered people gathered at a bus station to be sprayed by officials who were there to disinfect shop fronts. The video has caused widespread anger in India. An investigation is underway. Still ahead on tonight's news. HSBC and Standard Chartered among British banks to suspend dividend payments. 3 teens arrested in connection with a Petrol bomb attack on the New Territories North Regional Police Headquarters. And the Trump administration relaxes Obama-era vehicle mileage standards. Welcome back to TVB News. Banks across Europe are scrapping plans to give dividends to shareholders at the behest of central banks. The European Central Bank told lenders to skip dividends and share buybacks until at least October. It stressed banks should shore up their reserves as the coronavirus pandemic threatens to tip the global economy into deep recession. The ECB estimates that banks could save 30 billion euros that way and instead direct profits towards supporting the economy. The central bank's demand is something of a quid pro quo after it let banks eat into their capital and offered cheap credit. HSBC and Standard Chartered stocks took a beating today after the 2 banks announced they would cancel their dividends. 2 London-based banks will also not launch any share buybacks in 2020. Caleb Long has details.
Another cluster of people fell victim to the coronavirus epidemic, and this time it's the shareholders of the 2 banks. In HSBC's statement, the bank's decision not to pay dividends was made at the request of the UK's Prudential Regulation Authority. In response to the request, the bank has canceled the fourth interim dividend of 21 US cents per ordinary share, which was scheduled to be paid on April 14th. The bank will also make no dividend payments or undertake any share buybacks until the end of the year. HSBC says it will review its dividend policy once the full impact of the pandemic is better understood and economic forecasts for global growth in future years are clearer. As for Standard Chartered, the bank will not be paying a final dividend of 20 US cents for 2019 per ordinary share. It will also suspend the buyback program announced in February. The bank will not be paying any interim dividend in 2020, but may pay a final dividend for 2020 next year, depending on its financial performance and medium-term outlook. An investment advisor called the suspension a positive move for the banks.
This will increase the capital to let the bank to face the systematic risk and also the economic exposure in this economic recession in the short period.
Lam also expects some shareholders to reduce their shareholdings as the banks will not be paying dividends for at least a half year. KW TVB News.
Police have arrested 3 teens in connection with a petrol bomb attack on the New Territories North Regional Headquarters in Taipo early today. Haley Zhou reports.
At around 2 a.m. today, 5 petrol bombs were hurled at the police station compound. 3 ended up at the parking lot and the other 2 landed near the facility's vehicular entrance. No one was hurt. 3 teen boys in black, all wearing masks and gloves, tried to flee the scene. Officers nearby arrested them on suspicion of arson. 2 of the youths allegedly put up a struggle during the arrest, leaving 2 officers injured. The police said the 2 may also be charged with assaulting police officers. The teens are all students from a secondary school in the district. Taipo District Assistant Commander Johnson Chung says there has been a rising trend of young people involved in arson attacks over the past 10 months. He believes some of them could have been talked into committing such crimes or they have romanticized such criminal activities. Chung said possession of a petrol bomb is an offense punishable by up to 1 year in jail. There have been calls for flash mob attacks to burn doghouses, a derogatory term for police compounds used by anti-government protesters. So far this year, there have been 16 arson attacks on police buildings involving more than 70 petrol bombs. Last night, a shattered glass bottle was found near the railway tracks at Mongkok East MTR station. A lighter was also found on a footbridge next to the tracks. The police are investigating the case. A few hours earlier, at around 10 p.m., the police say several petrol bombs were thrown at the police sports and recreation club on Sayong Choi Street North. The police released these photos of pieces of shattered glass, saying the case has been classified as arson. Haley Zhou, TVB News.
7 people allegedly involved in the Yuen Long mob attack on July 21st last year appeared in court today. Charges they are facing include rioting and conspiracy to wound with intent. The defendants asked for more time for research of evidence, including security camera footage. The court adjourned the case until June 9th. 5 of the defendants were released on bail, while 2 others have been remanded in custody. A man accused of assaulting police and helping 2 people evade arrest was in court today. The 35-year-old defendant appeared at the West Kowloon Magistracy. His case dates back to November of last year. He allegedly attacked police officers at the Festival Walk Mall in Kowloon Tong. He faces 5 counts of assault. The case has been adjourned until April 27th. As Americans remain focused on the pandemic, the Trump administration's rollback of mileage standards has gone into effect, marking a win for Americans who like big vehicles. The administration's new rules relax future mileage standards for years to come. Trump's new mileage standards will require automakers to achieve just 1.5% annual increases in fuel efficiency. The Obama-era standards called for 5% annual increases. The earlier standards had been the U.S. government's single most forceful initiative against climate-changing fossil fuel emissions. Democratic lawmakers and environmental groups condemn the rollback, and years of legal battles are expected. Opponents also project millions of tons more carbon dioxide and other climate-damaging emissions. That is our time for the news. Thanks for joining us.